This video is about the document I finished preparing recently called Secondary Demands. Those are the demands that come after the four main demands that I have for the organization that have to do with granting me my justice for being unjustly abused in various different ways by some part of the organization for about 6.5 years. Now, this secondary demand list, it may be not as critical as the four main demands of my justice. They are still important, and they overall have to do with how I want to be treated as a proper human being with proper respect, and I don't want to be hindered, undermined, or mistreated in any way. And I have explained it in a detailed manner in those 29 secondary demands. I expect the video to be about 4 times longer, about 4 hours actually, so I might split it into different parts. The reason, and also I might record it in different parts. The reason I'm expecting it to be that long is because the document is about 4 times longer than that of my main 4 demands, of which video was almost an hour. So if it's 4 times as that, it might take 4 hours. I don't know, but let's start. I'm going to read the document for you. Those are my secondary 29 demands. 1. I want my body to be rejuvenated. For the past 6 years of physical torture and stalking by fake neighbors, and at some point also obsessive stalking by the cars outside, especially when I was more sensitive to sounds. I lost 6 years of my youth to constant, never-ending, around-the-clock attempts to destroy me, either by sound attacks or physical attacks. I was denied of any attempts to have fun, like watching movies, either at home or at the cinema, or TV shows. Sometimes many seasons of great TV show like Legends of Tomorrow would be lost to constant physical torture, and they cannot even be rewatched for the same expected value, because they already have been watched under horrible circumstances. I was tortured during exercise, mostly during rest, but sometimes even during my sets, like when I would hold a weight The creature would overload the sensitive nerves in my toes to remind me of Emma Watson in a painful way. Oftentimes, I would even be denied of sleep, even when I was not feeling well, like having a panic attack, or even after not sleeping for over 28 hours. The creature wouldn't allow me to sleep. Also, oftentimes, even after taking even several doses, high doses of sleeping drugs, the creature still wouldn't allow me to sleep. Those 6 years were a horrible nightmare. I can certainly say that indeed 6 years of my life, of my youth, were lost to the creature and its collaborators. Now, while it's not possible, at least to my current knowledge, to restore lost experiences, especially those that I either don't want to experience again or cannot experience again with their original value, like lost seasons of a TV show. It should be possible, using the organization's advanced technology, to at least recover the youth that was lost during those 6 years. While I admit to look young compared to other people of my age, I still think that I did experience at least some aging process during those 6 years, no matter how subtle it may appear. Or at least I don't have any evidence, like medical documents proving that I have not aged at all during that time. No matter how young I may appear, I was told that I look 20 years old, but that's not the point. Since those years were lost to constant torture and I wasn't able to experience them properly, and it was all because of the evil creature and its collaborators, I demand that that lost youth be returned to me. I would also want, I don't know why they keep deleting the word want in my document. I would also want the ruined experiences to be fixed, but since I don't know of a way to do it, at least give me back my youth. I don't intend to wait until my training program rejuvenates me after several years. My youth was taken from me by a supernatural power, by the creature and its collaborators. So I demand it back. Give me back my youth. I want my body to be properly. They keep fucking deleting words. Now they deleted the word be. To be properly rejuvenated for an amount of 6 years of my life. I do admit that losing my youth was one of the justifications, although just one of them, for the, to be honest, relatively meager amount of money that I asked in compensation for all the evil that was done to me, no matter how much I think about it. Yet it was included, and for that reason I am offering to forfeit up to 30% of the compensation money in return for the rejuvenation of my body. On that occasion, I'm offering to forfeit another up to 30% of the compensation money for at least some of the following improvements done to my body and made permanent on the genetic level. One, that I'll be able to breathe through my nose easily at any time, that my nasal airways would not be constricted ever again, but always be free. Two, that I would not have to shave either my face or my body ever again. Simply put, that hair would only grow on my head and I would neither have facial hair nor body hair, and that it would be 100% effective and permanent. For example, that it wouldn't be affected neither by time, nor by hormones, nor by self-regeneration or any kind of healing. That absolutely both facial hair and body hair won't grow ever again. Hair will only grow on my head, yet I don't mean the removal of my eyebrows and eyelashes. Those will remain unaffected as well. The removal 3. The removal of all the excessive body fat in my body, especially all of the visceral fat and most of the fat in the face and neck, if the skin needs to be adjusted, so after the body fat removal it won't look like there is excessive amount of skin left in various areas in my body. The amount of body fat I'd like to be removed is to make the resulting body fat percentage balanced optimally between health and appearance. However, I want all of the visceral fat removed. I believe that this particular section, the body fat removal, should come with a considerable discount, because it was during the time of constant torture that I think I gained much of the excessive weight, when I was barely able to think and I was constantly consuming whatever came to mind. 4. Optimization of my teeth without any harm to their health in any way, nor to the gums, the skull, or any part of mouth or face, actually without any harm to the body at all. I believe that this could possibly be achieved. Again, they're fucking deleting the word "be" for some reason, using today's technology, but the organization might do it better and safer. What I'm specifically looking for is whitening the teeth and perfectly straightening them in a healthy way that doesn't leave them with erased enamel or any other negative health condition. 5. Restoration of my eyesight to full capacity. 6. Healing of the acne scars on my face. 7. Making it so the skin across my entire body is not prone, even on a slight level, to any type of skin disease ever again, specifically acne and seborrhea, regardless of hormonal condition, nutrition, or whatever other factors that could otherwise play a role in their onset. And the motherfucking creature has just stimulated my heel when I said acne to tell me to fucking walk on the treadmill for the word acne. I can't wait to get rid of that evil thing. 8. Increase of my penis size to a length between 7 and 8 inches. I think 8 may be better. because apparently that's what is statistically optimal to satisfy most women, without causing them pain or harm, and the girth to be a balanced measurement to the length, meaning that the size would be balanced and it won't be a pencil dick. The idea is that the combination of length and girth would be optimal for most women, that the penis would be considered large, but not too large to cause them pain or harm for most women. The idea is that most women would feel that it feels them really good and it also stretches them in a way that they find pleasurable but not painful. That it would be the type of penis that most women would like to have inside them, and that the size would be optimal, that even if I was a very average guy all around, both in looks, personality, and talent, that I would be desirable by women just because of the type of penis that I have. Also, after it's done, I want the optimal size to be genetically locked, so even if I do some exercise that results in alteration of my physical structure, for example, that it would make me larger, that the penis would not also become larger than what is optimal for human females, and also not smaller for whatever reason. In the future, I might ask it to become genetically unlocked. If in a very distant future I decide that I want to become or join a race of giants, and in that case the penis might become as large as a tall building or even a planet. But in a much less extreme case and much less distant future, if for example I come across a night elf society and the night elf females would statistically want a larger penis than human females, then I might seek to obtain a somewhat larger penis, big enough for night elf females, but not too big for blood elf females. 9. Hands that are optimized for the highest level of piano playing and possibly violin too, but extremely importantly for computer usage too, and ideally at least decent but preferably good for lifting weights as well, like doing bodybuilding, powerlifting, and Olympic weightlifting stuff. The idea is that the hands would be optimized for playing piano pieces of the highest level and also be able to press the largest chords and intervals written in piano music by highly acclaimed composers with both strength and speed, and that preferably those hands would be good for playing the violin too, but more importantly, that they would still be very good for both general computer usage, programming, and gaming, so that I would be easily and so that I would be able to easily and comfortably type on a variety of keyboards and easily and comfortably use variety of mouses and MMO mouses. Or if it's a computer mouse, do you still say mice? Anyway. Lastly, but less critically, is that I'd like them to be as good as possible for doing all sorts of weightlifting exercises, such as variety of gym exercises, powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, or even strongman stuff. Also, since naturally this would make my hands larger, at least due to the basic fact that my current hands are childlike and unable to press at all much of the wide chords and intervals written for piano music, the expectation is that my hands would also become manlier, that they would now look like the hands of a man rather than a child. And also, while holding female hands, they would feel that the female hand are held by a masculine hand that properly covers theirs. In all of the aspects that I have just detailed, I want to be given hands that are optimized, possibly by some kind of advanced algorithm or whatever method it is that provides me with what I described. One last thing about this is that the hands that I mentioned is the entire area from the wrists, including the wrists, all the way up to and including the fingertips. I did not mean anything about the entire hands from the shoulder joint. Nevertheless, it might be imbalanced from a total physical structure point of view. If just one part of the limbs is modified. Therefore, if the entire hand or even the entire body needs to be modified to have a more massive looking structure in order to balance with the modifications done to the hands, then I think it's preferable. Although if the idea of making me taller also comes up, at this stage I don't wish to become significantly taller, but I may agree to become taller just by a little bit, and still it would require my full consent. 10. That they heal the osteoarthritis in my knees. That's all for the first demand. Before I move on to the second one, I need to switch the settings on the air conditioner because it's really getting hot in here and I don't want to sweat. Actually, one moment please, I'm going to remove my upper shirt. All right. Demand number 2. That attempts at manipulation or disruptions of either senses or nerves is not. I can't believe it, they once again deleted the word be. Okay, demand number 2, that the attempts at manipulation or disruption of either my senses or nerves is not something that would be ever done to me ever again, neither as a method of communication nor for any other reason. If there is an intention to communicate with me, then ideally I would want it to be expressed in the most direct, verbal, clear and polite approach, because that's the respectful approach and I would like to be treated with proper respect. Failing this best approach, at the very least, I refuse to be attacked by the manipulation or disruption of any sense or nerve, because that's the worst approach and it disrespects me on a level of a life form and feels like an attempt to either hack me, hypnotize me, overpower me mentally, show me contempt, make me feel like I'm being controlled or that I'm out of control or entrapped. This is not how I want to be treated. One of the worst things using my body as a communication tool, which is most certainly not what it is, making me feel one thing or another in one or another body part and make me use that to discern the meaning, treating me like some kind of an animal. That's one of the worst things in that aspect, and I don't want it to be repeated ever again, whether supernaturally, like what the creature has been doing to me, or in any other way at all. No matter what method is chosen to communicate with me, definitely leave my body out of this. Do you see the light flashes? They keep disconnecting and reconnecting back the electricity for some reason as I am reading this document. I am not sure what their intention is. Next thing is communication using noises, especially noises that are severely unpleasant, especially noises that happen while I'm at my own home, which is a very private place, and worse, in my own room, which is an even more private place. I definitely and specifically demand that I won't be communicated with in this contemptible manner, nor do I want to be forced to hear those noises at all, at any time. And I don't even want a less disturbing noise from the outside, like a car horn, to be used to either communicate with me or get my attention in any way. There are words missing and I'm not sure why. Or either way, deliberately to make me hear it. I want as much as peace and quiet as I can get. Especially at home, especially at my own room. Next thing is the sense of smell. Another way that I don't want to be forced to feel things that I shouldn't. I neither want to be communicated through smell, especially since I'm not an animal, nor do I want to be made to experience this or that smell for whatever reason, especially at home, with the smell coming from the outside deliberately to make me feel it. I don't want it. Next thing is the sense of sight. I don't want there be an attempt to affect me, control me, or hypnotize me using visual information, specifically trying to associate more complex information with more basic visual information like colors or simple shapes, even lines. Also, I don't want to be communicated with in a hijacking manner, meaning that the communication would hijack a different communication in order to say what it has to say, instead of doing that independently. I don't approve a virus or worm like behavior in any aspect. If you have something to say, say it on your own, stand alone. Don't hijack something else like the creature. It was its preferable method of communication. It would do something to my body in response to a word or a number or even the time on the clock, sometimes something visual in order to communicate, hijacking another information with a different intention by attacking my body at the same time in order to say what it has to say. That's a very hateful way of communicating from my point of view. Like I said, I hate virus-like behavior. Also the idea of noise, sometimes an extremely disturbing noise being done, a deliberate time to tell me that the current numbers that appear on the clock mean something. I don't want to be communicated with like that ever again. I don't want the time on the clock to ever be made to mean anything ever again. I don't want the time to mean anything unless I decide that it does. For example, if it has to do with my timetable or something, leave the clock alone completely. Don't use it ever again to communicate with me. It's definitely not how a proper communication should be committed, nor there is any need to do that. Finally, I want my nerves to behave naturally as they should. I don't want it to be dictated and forced onto me that this or that part of my body would twitch, sometimes aggressively, even though it would not do it on its own. Nor do I want my gut to be made to release gases when the creature or global control system have a negative view of anything at all at the present and they want to express it by suddenly releasing the gases from my gut. I don't want any part of my body controlled ever. Although, to be honest, my body being left alone, it was already expressively said in the first of my main 4 demands. This is just more to back it up. Demand number 3. I don't want to ever in any way be treated like or be given the impression that I am either an animal or some kind of a lower life form, lower than a human being. Especially not a type of animal that is trained to obey commands like a pet or a circus animal, or worse, a lab animal that is sometimes exposed to extreme conditions or experimented upon because of how much it's being looked down upon. That was the worst of it. Extremely humiliating when the creature tortured my feet and ankles so hard, past endless screams and online complaints, it wouldn't even allow me to sleep. Even after I took high dosages of sedating drugs, it would completely negate their effects by constantly torturing my feet and ankles for Emma Watson for even as long as normal sleep duration, which is 8 hours, sometimes even longer, a lot longer. And it did that to the point that I shamefully admit that I started to think that maybe I should have tried acting more selflessly towards Emma Watson than I had, and tried to do things to make them happy instead of being selfishly self-focused as I had been. The creature was able to break me enough to make me start thinking such thoughts, but not enough to make me act upon them. And it's similar to a lab experiment done on rats, in which they were constantly tortured. But as all life forms tried to survive, the rats fought for their lives and tried to seek a way out. But the torture was ceaseless, and it kept going on, and the rats were completely helpless against it. Just as I was against the supernatural creature. And eventually the rats stopped fighting because they learned that it was useless. There's even a scientific term for this. When when an animal or some life form gives up on fighting and accepts that they can do nothing about their situation, there is a scientific term for this. I forgot what it is, and they just gave up and died. I was treated by that creature like a lab animal, reduced to a level of a rat. Even without such extreme torture, using my body, forcing me to feel things in my own body without my permission just to communicate is extremely insulting to me as a life form. It's like telling me that I'm an animal or a lower life form otherwise, because that's not how human beings are treated. Also trying to control me, hypnotize me, or gain power over my mind one way or another. Even worse, to train me or make me receive commands like a dog or something is extremely humiliating to me as a life form, and is not how a human being is supposed to be treated. Another really bad example of being treated like an animal or lower life form and humiliated in that manner is often when I would go to the bed to either rest or even sleep. The creature would stimulate my heel to tell me to walk instead of resting. It would also stimulate my heel to tell me to walk on other occasions. It's actually beyond the mere telling, it's a type of command because it's forced to feel on the body. It's imposed, commanding a life form to move or controlling its movement anyhow is something that is done to animals like horses or sheep and not human beings. To have my heel stimulated, to be told to walk like I'm some kind of an animal is extremely humiliating as a life form. Worse, the abusive treatment of being commanded to walk instead of rest or even sleep, like an attempt to drain me out. Because while at extremely advanced level of self-development, it's imaginable that someone would have so much energy that they wouldn't even require sleep. But when I'm not even 1% of that level, telling me to walk instead of resting or worse, sleeping, is extremely abusive. Even the fact of trying to control my movement itself. I'm repeating that only animals are treated in that manner and not human beings. On the street, a police officer may direct either a car traffic or pedestrians, but nobody controls human beings' movement on a personal level. Nobody. It is simply not how human beings are ever treated. I demand to not ever be humiliated or abused like that or in any similar way ever again. I demand to be recognized that as a life form, I'm at least a human being, and therefore I deserve to be treated as that, as a human being with the proper respect and being deserves to be treated with. Plus, I actually know it very well that I am not merely a human being, but someone who has potential to reach levels of self development that far exceed an average person, and even very successful people. That I am that much talented, not to mention that I'm also discovering how to do it, how to live forever, how to reach a superhuman level, even what could be seen as godhood, and I fully intend to do that within time. But I am not demanding to be treated like a king at this point, just because of the immense potential that I see within myself. I am just saying that I want to be treated at least as a human, and definitely nothing less. You see all the cruel and humiliating things that were done to me, treating me like an animal or otherwise a lower life form. I have no evidence of those things even ever being done to anyone else on the planet at all, at least not by a supernatural power. It's as though I was singled out to be treated that way, out of the entire planet, at any point in time, and not because I am less, but because I am more, and the supernatural forces know it too. If you don't want to treat me as something more, at least until I prove myself to be, then don't. But don't treat me as less. Don't treat me as something less than human. I demand to be treated at the very least as a human being. No commands, no control, no humiliation, no torture or abuse, but proper human respect. One last specific thing about this. I don't want there ever to be an attempt to either mate or breed me as though I were a dog or something, an animal or again a lower form of life. I don't want to be forced, coerced in any way, manipulated or tricked into having romantic or sexual partner, or breeding with either that partner or any other woman. Also, I don't want to be forced, coerced in any way, manipulated or tricked into having any sort of romantic or sexual affair or experience with any person whatsoever. I am not a pet or farm animal to be mated and bred. Also, having a partner is a very big deal and a very big decision, and also personal decision that should be completely left to my own choice. And I am not even looking to share my life with someone on a personal level like that. And having children is also a very, very big decision that should be handled with a lot of responsibility, and I absolutely refuse to have it decided for me. As for romantic or sexual experiences, I am not someone's pet or plaything to have those decided for me either, and I would enjoy them. And I wouldn't. Is it like fucking changing what I'm writing? And I wouldn't enjoy them if they were. Like I said, I want to decide things for myself, not to be controlled like an animal or otherwise a lower form of life, lower than a human being, that that should be able to make his own decisions about his own life. Demand number 4. Even though I demand to be treated as a human, sometimes even humans are bullied in one way or another. Or there's some kind of an attempt to manipulate them one way or another. Sometimes it's a crime, for example, if it's a blackmail. Therefore, I am going to state it very clearly and simply that I don't want to ever again be bullied or that there would be any attempt to control me ever again. I would like to live the rest of my life free of any adversity, especially from supernatural forces. Demand number 5. I want the full recognition and respect of my individuality on both biological and psychological level. Let's start with the biological part. The creature, ever since it came into my life, has been forcing onto me the idea that I am now sharing my body with it. But you see, this is not symbiosis. We are not symbiotes. Because I was not given a choice whether I want to share my body with it or not. It decided it for me. And even though I reject the creature's control of my body very badly, it still forces itself onto me. The creature is a parasite. I don't want a parasite in my body. Now, as far as biological symbiosis goes, the most significant extent of this that I may accept is the harmless, even considered positive bacteria that naturally reside in humans' guts, that both help fight off bad harmful bacteria and also help digest food. And even then, if I wanted to, I could kill that bacteria off by consuming antibiotics, for whatever reason that would be. I absolutely would not agree to share my body with another life form, whether organic or cybernetic, on any big or significant level. I want my body for myself. I want complete biological independence. Now for the psychological part. I am one person, not two, nor three, or a group of any sort, and definitely not a hive mind. That's what I am, and that's what you'll treat me as, and never as anything else. I don't have a soulmate, or in other words, a second half, because I am not a half to begin with. I am one whole person of a male gender. A person doesn't need to be a couple of both genders or otherwise. One person of one gender is enough to properly function as a human being, and I do. I don't require a partner to function, and I am very happy that I don't. I also don't feel lonely. I don't have some giant hole in my heart or soul that needs to be filled by some kind of a partner. On the contrary, I'd feel miserable if my life was a partnership. Because I want my life all for myself. And also I don't want anybody to be given power over myself, much less to the extent of them being my life partner. That's exactly the kind of position I don't want anybody at all to have ever. I can have relationships that are sexual because sexual pleasure has nothing to do with sharing my life. I can also display some levels of affection towards women and I can date them too. But that also has nothing to do with sharing my life. It's just affection and it's just dating, not partnership. Also, I would never devote myself, as in bind myself to one woman or even several. I choose complete freedom in love life and sex life. I absolutely refuse that it would be decided that some woman or group of women is important to me on a personal level, and therefore I should and therefore I should do something for them or worse, put their interests before mine, like what happened with Emma Watson. I mean, I'm sure that everybody well observed how hard I fought and resisted against that, and also succeeded at doing so, with perfect success. I don't have a partner, and I don't need nor want one. Also, I would never even trade any useful day to day tool or object that I have for a romantic or sexual relationship with any person. I've even made a video about it on YouTube, but I don't remember its name. Literally every single tool or object that is useful to me in day to day is far more valuable to me than any romantic or sexual relationship of any kind, and I would never trade it for them. That's what happens when you think both honestly and clearly. That also goes to show how overvalued those things are and how wrong and horrible it would be to marry. My exact meaning is if literally any useful inanimate object in the house is more valuable than a romantic partner, and those objects don't even ask for partnership of any sort, they are fully controlled by a person, then why give that less important than inanimate object person so much power over oneself to the retarded extent of making them life partners? It's so self defeating, utterly stupid, and illogical. It's one of the worst things to do. I would never do such an unnecessary and retarded thing to myself. I don't want to ruin my own life and won't allow it to be ruined by anybody else. So I'm one person and I'll never be anything more than that. Accept that and respect that. Demand number 6. I want not only physical freedom, but mental too. I don't want any attempt to lock my mind onto certain events, colors, people or numbers or any type of information. Just quit trying to hypnotize me. I don't like that shit being done to me, and I won't allow that to work, nor like I expect it to either. There are few specific ways in which I want to be mentally free. First of all, I don't want any remainder of the creature's twisted ways of warping my mind, whichever they may be, from lower leg fixation, with any excuse just to be fixated on that area, the walking thing, the walking instead of sleeping or resting idea, the self-sacrifice idea, the attempt to convert the person into a Japanese-like mindset of self-sacrifice either by hard work like training or for other people like Emma Watson, or find whatever excuse just to sacrifice own life. And also the women being depicted as lines, thing. It's also something that the creature really likes, and I don't want it in my life. I don't want any trace of the creature's warped, corrupted ways or ideas lingering, remaining at all. Next thing. I don't want any attempt to remind me women from the past like they're some kind of heroes. They're not heroes, they're villains if they try to manipulate me even as part of a group, and if not, then they were just used to manipulate me, but they definitely don't have the right to be treated like heroes, constantly being reminded of, as though they've ever done anything to earn it at all. Any kind of merit, any sort of benefit to my life. Hell, they never even had any sort of relationship with me, so don't treat them like heroes. Please don't do that. Next thing, I don't want any pull towards 2019 and 2020. The period of time that the creature really likes and wants to pull me back towards, when I often used the treadmill, trained in wrong ways for excessive amount of hours and tortured myself like that, even attempting to exercise for over 48 hours without sleeping, and also displayed excessive fanatic and very submissive affection towards Emma Watson, and even spent 1 month trying to learn and play a very advanced virtuosic piano piece for them and injured my hand in the process. I also took some female hormones during some period of the time, and also non-androgenic anabolic hormones, and my testosterone levels were probably very low because of that. I took both DECA, which is an anabolic but non-androgenic hormone which highly suppresses testosterone levels, and I used estrogen. So my test levels were definitely low, not what I want for myself. I was stupid back then, and I don't want to be reminded of that period of time ever again. In so many ways, that was such a horrible period of time. I was such an awful version of myself at that time. It was so self-abusive and just wrong. I definitely don't want to be like that ever again. I definitely don't want any pull back towards that wrong, bad, horrible, awful, miserable time period. Also, from that time period, I don't want any specific pull towards that Emma Watson video in late 2019 where I interpreted that she described people as lines, and the creature stuck with it ever since. I don't want the rest of my life to be reminded of or tied to a random Emma Watson video from 2019, and I also don't want that type of communication to be used. I specifically don't want either people or any complex objects to be described with mere lines, both because I personally don't like nor even used it myself, but also because it feels like a controlling, disrespectful method of communicating. You see, a line is such a basic shape that trying to associate it with women, it's like trying to control someone's mind, like a form of hypnosis. And that's exactly what I don't want to be done for me, simply because it doesn't feel good, and also it's not good. It's not respectful. Also, if I haven't explained it well enough as of yet, 2019 and 2020 was a period of time for me full of both foolishness and self-abuse. I heavily dislike it, and I never want to be reminded of it. Treadmill usage was a major part of that time period, something that I don't want to be reminded of in any way. Neither treadmill nor walking, especially not by heel stimulation. I am not some animal to be signaled to walk by heel stimulation. Geband number 7. I don't want my physical exercise to be interfered with ever again. Ever since I was 23, there were constant attempts to get my attention one way or another during training in public gyms, sometimes more aggressively than other times, and I don't have to go into details, nor would I like to do so, simply because it's unpleasant. It may actually been before I was 23. When I started training at home, shortly after that, the evil creature would begin interfering with my workouts by attacking my body during them, and still does that to me at the time of writing this on January 19th, 2024. I don't want there be any attempt to interfere with me in any way during my workout ever again, whether I train at home or elsewhere. I want complete and total peace while working out. Demand number 8. I don't want anybody or anything interfering or trying to get my attention when I'm either masturbating, watching porn, or doing anything sexual altogether. Also, if and when I start meeting females to have fun, I don't want any interference during that time either. Also, not when I'm at the toilet, nor when I intend to sleep or rest, no matter where. I want absolute peace and privacy in any intimate or private moment, or one that's meant to be peaceful or quiet. Demand number 9. I don't want any interference with my gameplay in online video games, specifically World of Warcraft. I don't want it affecting gameplay related stuff like whether my abilities work at all, nor RNG based stuff like proc chances of enchants, trinkets, or anything else, home boss abilities, target, nor loot rolls, nor other stuff like whether I win in battlegrounds. I want it to stay out of my games completely. There are other stuff that I haven't mentioned in the document in video games, like affecting my in-game camera, like suddenly making the camera thrown off somewhere, or also affecting dodge and parry chances, which are also controlled by RNG. I wanted to... I don't know about improving my luck, but at least not sabotaging it in my... or sabotaging my gameplay in any way. I mean, improving it might be a bit of unfair, like cheating, but at the very least, I don't want to be sabotaged. Demand number 10. No matter where I live, I don't want the neighbors, especially the neighbors, to be concerned with me at all, much less attempt to interfere with my life or stalk me on a regular basis. I want them to mind their own lives and completely ignore mine, unless I'm the one who reaches out for whatever reason. I want them to stay out of my life as much as possible. You do realize the very sound meaning of this, reasoning for this. It's bad enough if I get to live in somewhat close vicinity to someone I didn't choose on my own, and it's worse if they try to close in on me even further. I really like privacy and space also. And maybe it wouldn't have been an issue if I didn't have bad experiences in the past, but now it's one of those things that I want. Demand Number 11. I want the evil creature and all the evil things it's been doing to me for the past several years to be fully exposed to the public, so that everybody knows of all that unjust evil that was done to me for such a prolonged amount of time, and how I was able to overcome it on my own, with the power of my own mind, with the never-ending support of my immensely dear mother. How I'm the hero of the story and my mother too, and how with help with her help and support I was able to overcome and defeat that evil supernatural force that wanted to end me and my future one way or another, and constantly sought and attempted to do so, aggressively even, mercilessly with so much cruelty. How the creature is such an awful villain, and I want everything it's done listed. Everything starting from attempting to break my mind using sound attacks wherever I lived for more than 2 years, then trying to force me into homosexuality by twitching my prostate every time I talked to a male employer, then trying to force me to walk all the time by constantly knocking on the treadmill at my room, especially when I looked at pictures of women, especially Emma Watson, whom I liked at the time, suggesting that I should walk on the treadmill to somehow obtain them, and also stimulating my heel in order to make me walk on the treadmill. Then all the cruel, sadistic, never ceasing torture that the evil creature inflicted upon my body for over 3 years, trying to use Emma Watson to enslave me, constantly overloading the sensitive nerves in my feet and ankles to the point of extreme suffering of different types of sensation, even with every single one of them being worse than any feeling of pain I've ever experienced, a feeling that's worse than pain. And it would do that to me all the time, oftentimes preventing me from sleep, even many hours after I would take even high dosages of sleep-inducing or promoting drugs. It would torture me so hard that the drugs would be rendered fully ineffective, and I was not allowed to sleep at all, and I suffered very hard. And that at times I would scream almost 24/7 each day for months, so hard that even my own mother could not tolerate it, and I was taken to a mental hospital against my will, and I was forced to be treated with mind-numbing psychiatric injections for over a year, despite not being sick, but tortured by that supernatural force that does actually exist, and it's evil, sadistic, and cruel beyond measure. All the things, all the thousands of videos I recorded begging for help, all the countless of letters I sent to the UN, to the White House, and also the English Prime Ministers, every single day for over 3 years, even several times a day, sometimes many times in the same day, and I would not receive any help, no response, no matter how, and how I had to fight all the time, all on my own, against that evil supernatural force. However, with the support of my loving and loyal mother, who never abandoned me, which prevented me from doing something like committing suicide at that horrible time, knowing that I'm loved and supported, and that I don't have to work, cook, and do laundry all on my own. However, all that time I desperately sought a solution, any solution, either by asking for help every single day from any government or on YouTube, or by finding some special training program that would make people come to my aid and protect or save me from that evil thing. How eventually, thanks almost completely to my own brilliant mind and a minor suggestion by a black person from the USA, or at least I assume he was, from YouTube, I was finally set on the correct path to make myself free using the methods Providence left behind for the special brilliant person to use. And how after a bit more digging, after a tiny amount of suggestion by people I came across, especially the technician from Brimag, I understood exactly what I had to do, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that that's exactly the right thing to do, and I would use that to be set free from the evil creature. Obviously, I won't reveal the program itself because it's meant to be kept secret and discovered and used only by a truly worthy person, but I want everything else exposed. Also, every single attempt of the organization to use women to control me, I want all of it exposed fully, all of their schemes against me, everything. Specifically, another thing that I'd like to add is how they try to even turn my own nervous system against me, trying to make it appear as though primarily the muscles in my legs and sometimes other parts of my body twitched or even go into neurotic madness in reaction to all kinds of things. How they tried to condition me to not sit and made my lower legs go berserk whenever I sat. How they tried to make me believe that some movie scenes, particularly the climax scene of Knives Out, are for some reason so stressful for my nervous system that they are unwatchable from how they make my lower legs go completely berserk no matter how many times I would try to watch it. How they established that my largest limbs, my legs, would be the main area of parasitic possession, that my legs would be used to both communicate with me through my body like a lower life form, or at other times they twitched to make me feel unstable neurotically, how they tried to condition me to do the wrong training program that apparently leads to further enslavement, presumably somewhere in Asia, kidnapped and deprived from own home, by making my leg muscles extremely calm and not twitching them when I would do even a single part of a session of that program, and also almost completely reducing any type of attack on my body at all to make me feel as though I'm doing the right thing. How they fiercely started to twitch my leg muscles and other parts of my body, like eyes, around the eyes, hands, and arms, when I started and also continued doing the training program left by Providence, a method for a person to set themselves free, to try and make me believe that it makes my nervous system go unstable and that it's bad for me, completely contrary to how I feel from that program, which is a very good, feeling like an extremely healthy thing to do. They tried to force me to think that it's the opposite, and they failed, and I persisted, and I triumphed. I want all of this to be known and exposed. Demand number 12. Regardless of relying on the methods that Providence left behind to set myself free on my own, In the future, I want Earth's forces to also be reliable to get help from if I'm attacked by a supernatural force ever again. I hope not. And I'm in need of help. But not just me, but anybody else. A supernatural force. It's an unknown force. It's like dealing with an alien, or at least sometimes it might be exactly that. And I want the governments of the world to be able to be relied upon to protect the planet from unknown or alien invaders. So if some creature is tormenting, torturing an innocent man for such a long time as it did to me, then they definitely should mobilize the entire army to track and hunt it down and destroy it. I don't want to ever see Joe Biden making so many Instagram posts about Trump when there's an alien attacking my body for over 3 years and torturing the hell out of me. I mean, how is Trump of any concern at all when Earth is being attacked by some unknown alien force? I mean, why don't you set your fucking priorities straight? You're the leader of the free fucking world. Deal with what you should be dealing first and then worry about your political competition. Demand number 13. I don't want them to ever again try to undermine me in any way. I've really had enough of it. Specific examples of what I mean by attempts to undermine can be found in my video series called After 15 to 75 weeks of the Free Guy program, will they also stop trying to undermine me? Found on my present YouTube channel. Demand number 14. I want to be happy. If there is a contribution to my happiness, then that's great. If nothing is done to make me happy, at the very least, I want to be able to seek happiness on my own, while nothing is done to take from it. I would actually also like to explain how I'd like to be happy. It's very simple. I want to be happy because life is great. The idea of happiness being found in marriage, it's not my idea. It's from the outside. It's corruption. As I've said, being mated or bred like some pet or farm animal, or otherwise being forced to share my life with someone, it would make me extremely sad and miserable rather than happy. I would never want that. I really just want to be happy because life is great in every way it could be. And yes, having the best possible experiences with the best possible women contributes to that. Just not the binding and attachment and being forced to share my life part. Like in the French Revolution, an extreme example when they used to tie a man and woman together and throw them into the river together. With women, it's everything else that's supposed to be fun. I think I seek enjoyment, not handcuffs. Obviously, I would share my life to some extent with people, primarily with my family and also friends, wherever I make them, and maybe possibly to some extent with women too, but not to the extreme levels that are expected, for example, in marriage, that you're now seen as two people rather than one. I want to be free, happy, and independent as much as possible. Demand number 15. I don't want any person of any sort ever again presenting themselves to me with a fake name, made up identity, or someone else's name or identity, not unless it's an online game or community where people use made up aliases rather than real names. This is especially about where the organization has control. The first time I experienced it was when two different women in 2015 used the name More Nuriel with me, and they were obviously targeting and tracking me too, very possibly acting on behalf of the organization or as part of it. The second time I experienced it was with Emma Watson, when I found out that it's not a real person, but a made up identity used by not mere two or three or even four, but many different women, possibly of different ages. And the identity is a complete fabrication, nothing about it is apparently true, from the actual full name, any part of it, the date of birth, the location of birth, the family member's biography, everything is apparently completely fake and made up. I like neither of the cases, and I wouldn't like to be treated that way ever again. I don't like lies. Nobody does, but lies about own identity, not being able to hand out at the very least your own name. It's not like I'm even asking for something more private like an address. It's very disgusting to me. It's like this controlling behavior, and like, who do they think they are to not be able to at the very least tell me their actual name when talking to me in the real world outside of computers? Actually, not even that. They can at least be honest and say that they would not want to share their name, for whatever stupid or ridiculous reason that can be. But I don't want to ever be given a fake name or identity. Let's go even a step further. They can say they want their name to be hidden, and they would use an alias instead. But at least be honest and open about it. Don't give me a fake name or identity with the pretense that it's your actual one. Honestly, though, when meeting and dealing with people in the real world outside of computers, I'd prefer to see their identification document showing their actual identity. I don't like this hiding thing. Like they want to have an additional layer of protection, and they have anything to hide at all, which already raises suspicion. And you know, if they have good intention and if they're overall good people who 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 do not or pose any harm. I really don't know why some words are deleted here. That they shouldn't have anything to hide. At the very most minimum, not their identity. Like I said, there should be no problem saying your real name. It's not even an address. Although I agree that the ID document does show an address, but that's how it is and I can't help it. But I can show my ID document as well, because I have nothing to hide really about myself except things that are really none of other people's business, like my thoughts and plans and passwords, and I don't mind if they see my home address as well. I want at the very least the very basis of the interaction between two or more people, their presented identities, to be perfectly honest and truthful. Demand number 16. I want the truth to be exposed to the rest of the world about Emma Watson. how it's a made-up identity used by so many different women, whose identities I want exposed also. How everything about her is made up, the name, the date of birth, the location of birth, and also biography. I want it to appear on the news, internet, that there would be TV shows and internet articles about this topic, and also on YouTube, of course. I want it fully exposed and globally spread. Failing to do so, I want that made up character to simply disappear from the world. Specific idea of a fake character that was used to torture me so badly for such a long time to still have success, any amount of activity or worse popularity in the world, speaking for the UN and having their identities protected. Isn't it too convenient that they were used to torture me so badly and for such a long time, but their real identities are kept secret, so I was not able to make a trip to Britain and find out where they live, to go there and beat the hell out of them just to show it clearly that I won't tolerate being tortured for anybody. If the truth about them, as well as their real identities, are exposed to the world, I actually don't mind if they remain active in whatever they do, have their photos taken, post on Instagram, make videos, or even movies. However, from now on, they'd have to use their real identities just like everybody else. I don't even mind if the Emma Watson Instagram remains active, or even if that name is also continued to be used as a type of brand or group name in the rest of their content. But it would be nothing more than a brand or group name, and every Instagram post or other content that they would make would say exactly who that person is, at least their real full name, and it won't be obscured. I am not against their activity, but I don't want their identities to be hidden from the world. And I don't want them to be allowed to continue to deceive the rest of the world. I want them fully exposed. Demand number 17. I want women to be easy to get rid of, particularly women that I show any interest in. I am sick and tired of attempts to bind me, worse in a one-sided way, to any woman in whom I had shown interest that may appear to be serious, even if it didn't last very long. I am sick and tired of constant attempts to remind me or even bully me for some woman from the past, especially after a period of several years. When I decide that I'm no longer interested in a woman, there is no way that I'd like to be reminded of her. Oh, they're erasing the word be again. I'm not sure why. When I decide that I'm no longer interested in a woman, there is no way that I'd like to be reminded of her several years afterwards. Even worse, be bullied for her. If a woman from the past decides to show up on her own in a respectful, non-disturbing way, that's a different story. But I don't want other people reminding me of her or bullying me on her behalf. Demand number 18. I would like to have full privacy where I'd normally be expected to have that. First of all, I want mental privacy, the privacy of thoughts. Maybe only the highest levels of providence would know their contents, but the rest of the world won't. Next thing is I want any private location, like an apartment, a house, or hotel room, to be truly private, without anyone or anything trying to invade or disturb it in any way, and also nobody knowing what I do in those locations, unless it's absolutely necessary for whatever reason, like maybe knowing what training program I use if it's really needed to know, and even then it would be classified information, only accessible to those who have a very good reason to have access to it. Demand number 19. This is on the topic of tracking me outside the house and any manipulation of people, events, situations, or environments around me. I'd rather not be tracked or have anything around me manipulated because of my presence or an anticipation of it, unless it's done for a good reason. Good reason being trying to benefit me in whatever way it could be. Bad reason is trying to manipulate me, take some advantage of me, undermine me anyhow, or for whatever reason try to upset me or even hurt me. To be honest, if I'm tracked just for general surveillance, it's not that great either, but it's pretty neutral. If I'm constantly followed, I might as well be paid money for this, like reality TV stars. Although, I want private locations to be truly private, as I mentioned in the previous demand. And if it's rejected, I certainly want to be paid no less than people who participate in reality shows, with my life being exposed and broadcast like that. Also, I prefer the common public to know as little as possible about me, unless I share it myself. I specifically do not want to be followed anywhere by masses of people or any amount of common folk unless I officially become a famous person for whatever reason, or that I decide to invite them myself for whatever reason. If a person is deliberately put somewhere in anticipation of me, I also want it to be for a good reason. That, for example, I'd be expected to like the person or their company, or that person would have potential to benefit me in any way. Not to manipulate or bait me, though. I am neither animal nor puppet. I also highly prefer that I am not imitated, that neither what I do nor like is imitated in any way, especially not by the common public, even more especially nor by the old, sick, handicapped, or perverted. A specific example is that I don't want to be followed by an old woman or even old man wearing red and black, definitely not if they're somehow made to do it. You see, I like that set of colors, both because I think that they look good, attractive, and also because of what they represent to me at their best. I made a detailed YouTube video about it, the colors black and red. I don't like that combination of colors being put on people getting close to their demise. Demand number 20, that they do something about the DST issue, daylight saving time. Preferably, disable DST in Israel, ideally disable it in every country on this planet, and even better, on every single planet they have control over, one way or another. I don't want to have two different timetables depending on what half of year it is. I mean, because of the requirement to do the exercises exactly at the same universal time each time and not local time. Demand number 21, complete freedom and lightness of movement and activity no matter where or what I do. No matter what country, city, specific location, whether it's physical or virtual environment even. No matter what I do. Complete and unrestricted movement and activity with nothing either blocking or slowing me down ever, nor ever trying to show me any kind of resistance to what it is I do. Now, the physical freedom of movement is self-explanatory, but let me try to explain what I mean. Resist an example of resistance to something that I do. That, for example, there was this day when I was playing World of Warcraft on a private Pandaria server, and I was in this ride finder when we were fighting the paragons of the Galaxy, and someone was making a TOT group, and I said, I'm gonna join, but give me like 3 minutes. And I told them that I was like really geared, so they'd expect really good performance, and they said, okay, fine. And I was doing this fight in the raid finder, but while they were supposed to be focusing the DPS on a single target, they were splitting it across several targets, which made the fight unbearably slow. So I told them, you're splitting DPS, so I'm leaving the group. And when I left the group, the TOT group refused to invite me for whatever reason. Maybe because I left the previous group, like they were trying to tell me, oh, don't think you can leave the other group so easily, so and then join ours. Maybe it was a coincidence, maybe it wasn't intentional. But then someone was doing Flex 4, which includes the same boss, the Paragons of the Galaxy. And this group seemed to include a lot more experienced seeming people. But then again, as they split the DPS and they targeted all the wrong targets, and it seemed like they were trying to repeat what happened in the Tried Finder, like telling me, you cannot get rid of this so easily, we're going to repeat exactly the same in this group. Now, maybe, just maybe it was all a coincidence and it wasn't intentional. But in case it was showing resistance to my liberty of movement, saying I'll leave the group and join another group whenever I want to, then I don't want such resistance. In the future, I want it to be respected that I can do whatever I want, whether in the real world or in a virtual world. I can do whatever the fuck it is that I want to do, and I don't want any resistance to be shown to my actions at all. I want them to be accepted and respected. Demand number 22. Maximum detachment and disconnection from everything, unless I say otherwise. I would never want to be seen as neither puzzle piece, part of a larger entity, or some kind of conduit. I am talking particularly at the highest level, the level of life itself. Obviously, I may temporarily participate in this or that group for some reason. Like, for example, in video games to get entertainment. But those are limited contexts and don't require me to sacrifice my life. Basically, I don't want any situation where my life is sacrificed somehow. Worse, consumed entirely. I'm not a tool, and I'm not food. I also specifically don't want attempts to link my consciousness with anything forcibly. For example, what the creature seems to try to do to me when I use the computer. It tries to link my consciousness with characters in movies and TV shows. But I don't want to be linked to them. For whatever reason, it also wants me to be affected by transitions from one scene to another, and I don't want that shit either. Sometimes it even tries to link me with simple actions in the computer, like opening an application. Maybe it wants to connect my consciousness with the computer too. But I don't want that connection. I want to be detached. If at some point I decide to train how to control the computer with my mind, then it would be a separate, scheduled task devoted to that specific type of training. I don't want my mind to be linked to this or that by someone or someone else without my permission. Actually, like I said, I want it detached and disconnected as much as possible unless I decide otherwise. For example, naturally, as life goes on, some connections with people are made. That's normal. But I don't want someone or something from the outside try to forcibly bind me to someone. That would be awful. I really like and enjoy freedom. I'd like to be seen as someone who lives within an environment and interacts with it, but is not a fixed part of it, but someone who roams free, like in GTA or some car racing games, for example, or other open world games like Mass Effect or Skyrim, or even World of Warcraft. That largely has to do with that I don't see myself as someone whose scope is limited, and I'm not. I'm a man of no end. You have no idea. So don't try to put an end on me. I don't like it. I mean, imagine if you're playing Skyrim and they're trying to stick you in Rorikstead and make you stay there instead of enjoying the entire world. That would be utterly painful, wouldn't it? The attempt to use me as a conduit to open gateways, portals, or connections to other places in time and space, or even imaginary worlds through some kind of quantum physics mechanism is something that really pisses me off. Treating me like some kind of a tool, some kind of device or part of a device. What the hell is that kind of treatment of a human being? I don't want to be connected to anything at all unless I decide it myself. Disconnected, detached, free roam, open world experience. That's how I like it, that's how I want it. Demand number 23. Similarly, how I don't want to be forced to be connected to or linked with anything, I also don't want to be forced to be affected in any way by anything. This is a direct response to the creature. Just now, I mean the time of writing this, forcing my body to twitch in reaction to sounds in a music that I was enjoying. January 23rd, 2024. After I finished the previous chapter and was writing the next ones. You see, I want to enjoy the world and I want to experience it, but I don't want to be made affected by it, at least not more than necessary to get the experience or pleasure that I'm trying to get. Most certainly, I don't want my fucking body to be forcefully affected by things I either see or hear. In the first of the four main demands, I have already demanded my body to be left alone completely. This is specific something that I don't want to be done, no matter how, even if they find some other way to do it to me to try to make me feel affected by whatever other than twitching my muscles. This is not about how it is done, but about what is attempted to be done. I would like to specifically add that specifically while trying to enjoy something, be it movie or music, etc., being forcefully made to be affected by it more than I am naturally makes me suffer. It turns pleasure into pain. This brings me to my next point. Demand number 24. I am sick and tired of the creature trying to turn sources of pleasure into sources of suffering. Be it music, movies, TV shows, women, and sometimes even general computer usage. Things that I'm supposed to enjoy in life, it turns them into a source of suffering instead, as though deliberately to turn pleasure into pain, sometimes severe pain, sometimes what could otherwise be a really happy experience into possibly even trauma. Obviously, it was most evident with Emma Watson. I loved Emma Watson very much and I enjoyed all of their content, movies, videos, and pictures to a great degree. The creature decided to use that to try to enslave me, to turn it completely against me and use Emma Watson as the subject of my torture. It wouldn't stop after a mere few attempts. It tortured me for Emma Watson for over 3 years. The women that I enjoyed so much, it turned them into the source of my greatest suffering that I have ever endured. Then it started turning movies, TV shows, and even their short trailers against me. The more I liked or wanted to watch a movie or TV show, the more likely it would attack my body in one way or another when I watch it, either twitch my legs or sometime attack my lower legs when some woman appears on screen. As of the time of writing this, January 23rd, 2024, it would make my legs twitch even in response to music that I enjoy. It's as though it wishes all the greatest sources of enjoyment, especially if they are experienced passively, meaning it's something that is watched or listened to or experienced otherwise without me taking any action myself, it wants them to be turned into sources of great suffering. It seeks to turn pleasure into pain and great pleasure into great pain. I'm absolutely sick and tired of it. I want that sick and horrible, inhuman and unfair and unjust behavior to stop and never be seen again. Demand number 25. This is something that specifically happens in video games. And while I've covered the video game chapter, this is something that I both specifically don't want to happen and also I don't want it to happen at any environment, real or virtual. I don't want that kind of thing happen anywhere. Also, I realize that it's possibly done to show me some resistance when I'm at the start of my training program and that it would disappear on its own as I become more consistent with it. Nevertheless, I do want to mention this exact behavior that I don't like. Bad luck that seems deliberate, like trinkets, not proccing at all, or that the second trinket would proc right after the first one's proc end, or that the boss would target me right when a trinket proc, or that a boss would target me several times, like events would not align properly or would deliberately be aligned improperly. Gladly, it's only a virtual world thing. At least that's how it seems, and I'm glad. But I don't want it to happen in any environment, even virtual. I do wish to be fortunate, but I want luck to be at least neutral. Demand number 26. I wish that nobody is ever given any sort of power over me. And it very much has to do with women. Because the organization or the creature wanted women in one way or another to have power over me, personally, for many years. It began as psychological manipulations that I have already mentioned before. And then, with Emma Watson, it escalated to physical attacks, even to outright torture. Sadistic, cruel, and seemingly endless at the time, trying to establish those women as an absolute existence in my life, something to both serve and worship, like a god that would rule above me. That was that was both a very humiliating and painful experience. That's an extreme example of what I don't want to ever happen. I also don't want to be given a sense of belonging by being made to feel some woman in some way at some part of my body, as was done to me by a supernatural force, that she would be communicated or reminded to me of like that. It's a way of putting me down in her favor. I don't want them to be given any sort of power over me whatsoever at all, no matter how small. I actually want to be in charge as much as possible, but if not that, then at least not a pawn or underdog. It's not about domination, preferably leadership, but most importantly, freedom. I also don't want to just simply accept a woman for whom I was physically abused before. They have to do a few things to show me a certain amount of surrender and that they mean no harm. The only women for whom I remember being physically abused are Emma Watson, several other actresses, some random girl from the Icon gym who was wearing a belly shirt, and some female agents of the organization I have never seen. For a brief moment, it also tried abusing my body for my little sister, but let's leave her out of this list of some actresses other than Emma Watson for whom I've been physically bullied. Alexandra Daddario, Scarlett Johansson, Gwyneth Paltrow, Zendaya, Samara Weaving, one of the actresses in the movie Black Panther, I don't remember which one, Kobe Smulders, Natalie Portman, the actress from Iron Man 3 who overheated Iron Patriot with her hand. I haven't found her name. And Kate Kennedy. And another actress whom I haven't mentioned in the document is the actress who played Galadriel in the Amazon Lord of the Rings series. I actually really liked her and how she played her role. And she never behaved in any way that was provocative sexually or otherwise. She and her character always tried to display noble behavior. And I really hoped that the creature would not bully me, at least for her. But when the last episode came, it stimulated my shins for her. After all, it decided to bully me for her also. Not to mention that it ruined the last episode, completely twitching my thighs throughout the entire last episode, which was supposed to be really enjoyable for me. Just another great piece of work that the evil creature ruined for me, and there is absolutely no way for me to get that experience back, because there is no point watching it the second time. It will not be the same as watching it the first time as it was supposed to. Let's continue. I was possibly bullied for more actresses than I have mentioned, but those are the only ones that I remember. Now let's go to my demands for meeting any of those women for whom I've been physically abused. First of all, mind you, I am talking strictly about physical abuse and not something psychological. If I was forced to physically submit in some way to a woman, then now she should physically submit to me. This is to make it even. Promising me peace and compensating me with money by the organization is not enough. The scales of how we are treated for each other have to, at the very least, become even slightly towards equality. Sadly, it can't happen because that would require them to undergo similar level of abuse which they wouldn't agree to, especially what was done to me for Emma Watson would drive many people to commit suicide, and it's too extreme for me to even think of asking. Also, I am not an abusive person. I don't want to require others to suffer. Nevertheless, I am asking for some level of physical submission and surrender as an act of goodwill, as an act of desire to even those scales, even if it's far from the full amount. I'm good like that. I want to offer them a way to show cooperation and goodwill without asking much. I'm significantly reducing my previous demand that I posted on YouTube because I would like to make the process as easy and simple as possible and also not demand anything from women for whom I wasn't directly bullied or abused in any way. My current demand is as such that any woman for whom I was physically bullied or abused that wants to have any interaction with me whatsoever at all, including a mere conversation, would have to do the following. First of all, stated clearly, both by voice, which would be recorded, and also writing with a hand signature, that she deeply regrets how horribly and unfairly I was mistreated for women in the past, and that she understands that I was also physically abused for her as well, and that she herself would never seek to gain any kind of power over me at any point in time. Secondly, she would agree to show physical submission because I was abused physically, made to submit unwillingly physically, therefore, she also has to show that minimal physical submission that I'm asking for by giving me a blowjob at least 1 hour each week, once a week, for a total depending on what woman she is. If she is one of the Emma Watsons, then the total is only 4 hours, down from my previous demand of 16, which I had posted on YouTube. I'm really trying to make this easier. If she's any of the actresses I mentioned, or some other actress I suddenly recall being bullied for, or if she's a woman who would identify as an agent or representative of the organization, the demand is only 1 hour. This is down from the previous 8. Really trying to make this as easy as possible. And trust me, I am not like trying to exploit anyone, or I am desperate for some sort of sexual pleasure. If you have any sort of familiarity with me and my personality, you would know that it's really not about that. It's about a minor show of surrender to at least slightly even the scales, as I have said, with how I was treated for them. And show of goodwill. That's all this is about. Thirdly, she would do her best to treat me as nice as possible, recognizing how badly I was treated before for her and other women, and now it's time for me to be treated well. I believe that I'm asking only for very little, especially in comparison to the horrors that were done to me. But in any case, that's what I'm offering, and that's their only way to be allowed to have any interaction with me whatsoever at all. Whether any of them agree to do it, if my other demands are met, and the rest of my life will be happy, which it's expected to be if they are, then it should be fine regardless. Nevertheless, I would be glad if they did agree. It's preferable when people are understanding and cooperative. I think it would mean more if it was Emma Watson, because they are the ones for whom I was tortured most badly. And if they wish to make up for that and show me goodwill, that would make me happy. As for other women, it would obviously mean something too. And by the way, if you think Why did I pick specifically blowjob as a show of minor submission and surrender and also goodwill? Just think of it like, what else can I ask of them? I mean, they are women who are basically liked based on being pretty or sexy, mostly, or they're actresses. And what is it that you can gain from an actress? The only thing you can gain from an actress is her playing in a movie. There is nothing personal you can get from an actress. Anything else like money, anything else at all, I can get on my own. With the money I get anyhow, I can buy whatever I want. The reason I picked blowjob is because it seems to be the most simple and straightforward way to ask. Like a way for them to show some willingness to please me in a way that shows some submission and surrender without them experiencing any harm whatsoever at all. I mean, it doesn't hurt them in any way, which is exactly what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to avoid hurting anybody. And this seems to be the most simple and straightforward way. Let's continue. Regarding Emma Watson, I think it would mean the most if they were the actresses or models towards whom I have shown the most amount of submissive affection, and also specifically to their feet, reminding you that it was mostly my feet that were tortured in response to me showing affection to Emma Watson's feet. That's where I guess the creature got the idea to torture me, to make me submit to Emma Watson, because I was previously acting submissively towards them on my own. I believe it was the actresses of Beauty and the Beast, which is how I started to take interest in the Emma Watsons in the first place. I then came up with the name Sweetfoot for them. And it was also the Emma Watson from the ELLE. I don't know how you pronounce it, like Ellie or L or whatever. It's ELLE 2014 US, of whom there is both a video and a picture. It was this woman in a white dress and a red hat that in her video she tried to show her feet, and also in her picture of her laying on the side trying to make an erotic appearance, and also showing her feet in that picture. I'm talking about that woman. I recall putting her picture as a wallpaper on my computer, and acting in a worshipping manner towards her feet, kissing them after many treadmill sessions. If that's where it all started, perhaps I'd feel best if they are the ones who first and foremost showed me that they do not want me to submit to them, and that in return for how I was treated for them, they'd show me some level of submission and surrender themselves. I also recall that I really liked, like, I could swear that they are modifying the words in my documents. Really liked another Emma Watson, but I hardly showed it. One with pale skin. She was in a video about the movie The Perks of Being a Wallflower with the two male actors, and there was a part where she was laying across them and she looked like a model. I'm pretty sure that she wasn't in the film though. Also, if you know me, you must know that I like girls with skin of as light shade as possible, preferably white as snow. I only... Why is it messing with my camera now? I only mentioned her to say that I really liked her, but I hardly showed any submission towards her. I liked many of them. That's why when I was so sadistically tortured for them physically, it was not only physical suffering, but spiritual too. Whatever they and the other actresses do to make up for it, I'll accept with open arms. One last thing. If any of those women do decide to act in my favor, then I'd prefer it to be their younger version of whatever year it was in which they were seen in their respective photos or videos, brought forward in time from the past using the organization's time traveling technology instead of a body that has aged by several years since then. Especially the 10 years of the ELLE US 2014. I mean, most women would look much worse 10 years after they looked really good in their 20s. It's just how it most often is. But anyway, it's not a requirement, it's a preference. So if that's not possible, then I'd accept their current version. But if they look too old, I won't be able to have intimacy with them. And if they still find some other way to show me surrender, submission, and goodwill, I may agree to talk, but I wouldn't agree to intimacy. Demand number 27. The evil creature ruined at least 24 years of mostly American cinema for me. Mostly movies, but also series, behind which were put millions of hours of total work and billions of dollars. Work that was done by the most professional people who lived at each moment, putting their best possible effort for the past 24 years. This work cannot be merely compensated for by the mere $10 billion I'm asking for. I'm not sure that money alone would do it, as the work is priceless. There is no way to fully compensate for or recover so many hours of lost high quality entertainment. Therefore, I propose the following solution, which will not only benefit me but also the rest of the world. I want the organization to double the funding of all American cinema and also companies that make TV shows, for example, Netflix, with the intention that they now produce content at an accelerated rate. However they do it, whether hire more people who are hopefully as competent as the current people working for them and such, at least for the next 24 years, with hopefully at least the same amount of quality that has been thus far. This would greatly help to mend the situation. However, it's not a full solution because you can't, for instance, replace a movie from the year 2000 with a movie from the year 2020, because each year was its own time with its own people. All people, not just actors, but every single person involved in the making of the movie, the music involved, the subtleties in culture, in people's behavior. It's not the same. There is, however, another thing that could help. If the organization spans across different versions of the earth, then I want to be provided with digital files of the best video and audio quality, with the video being in the format of H.265 and audio format being either Dolby True HD or DTS HD Master Audio. Files of the movies and TV shows and maybe some anime too that they've been producing over the past 24 years that don't exist on this version of Earth. This has to include the most popular and high-rated content on the respective other versions of this planet. And ideally, also, if not all, then a lot of other content that is above average rating. But it does have to include all the most popular content of each respective Earth's version. The total amount of content has to be equal to the content amount that was produced on this version of Earth for the past 24 years. That is content that is considered of decent quality, means worth watching. Not the type that receives like 2 point something stars on the IMDb, but Stuff that people actually would watch. Demand number 28. I want to be fully promised, even guaranteed, that my legs, any part of them, from hip to toe, won't ever be neither touched nor made to feel anything ever again by anyone nor anything, not human, animal, alien, creature, any life form at all, whether organic or synthetic, or any computer, device, program, or machine would ever do anything to my legs ever again. If you really need any explanation at all about this, then you must know that my legs have been extensively tortured since the year 2017 to 2018. I mean, that's only when it started. When old women in buses were told to touch my thigh muscle, my quadriceps, one way or another, pretending that it's an accident, that for some reason occurred so many times. And then some black dude, also in a bus, was sent to sit, actually fucking sit on my thigh, and then ran off. After that, in 2019, the poisoning of both of my feet, also by some kind of supernatural power, at my own home, which I didn't even live. When I showed fuck, the evil creature was just deliberately making my left foot itch really badly when I was making this demand about my legs being left alone, which I am now going to continue. So, after they started to abuse my legs in the bus, somewhere between 2017 and 18, then in the year 2019, when I showed interest in the French electric guitar playing girl called Tina Setkick, some sort of supernatural power poisoned both of my feet, made them swollen red, and I was sent to a hospital where the doctors told me that it's poisoning, and it's highly unusual poisoning because it affects both feet at the same time, which is not something that really happens. And I didn't even leave home, so it was obviously done deliberately. After this one-time event when I was laying on my bed and thinking to myself about kissing that girl's feet, and right after that both of my feet were somehow poisoned by some kind of a supernatural force. And several months afterwards, after I started showing interest in Emma Watson, and I showed some affection towards their feet. My feet were then tortured in a prolonged and cruel manner, and then also my lower legs, and then the constant twitching of many muscles in my legs. The bottom of my feet, my lower legs, my thighs, especially my thighs, constant obsessive twitching of my thighs for such a long time, for years. I have nothing but painful and traumatic memories about how my legs, the largest and strongest limbs in my body, have been treated. Now, I want them to be left alone, for good. So, unless I need to go through some sort of a medical procedure done by an expert, I want them to be left alone. I don't want to be either touched or made to feel anything in any part of my legs from hip to toe by anyone nor anything ever again. Leave my legs alone completely, forever. Demand number 29. That's the last demand I made after the creature again really pissed me off by stimulating my lower legs while I was exercising, trying to imply that I'm some sort of a lower life form, yet fucking again. I want the entire organization to admit that I am the true God, that I am the most perfect, best form of life that the Superverse intended, and that I represent the best that the Superverse has to offer, and that I myself am the true Superversal man. Is that my scope is not limited in any way to any specific behavior or location, but it is truly superversal. And my potential is also superversal, that I am a man of true infinity, and that my achievement potential and also actual future will be truly limitless. I want the creature that has been abusing my body for the past several years to be brought down before me and made kneel in front of me. And as it does that, I want the leadership of the organization, as well as the creature itself, to declare that I am the superior life form, and there is nothing like me anywhere at all. That the creature that always tried to give the impression that it's above me is actually far beneath me, that the creature is far inferior to me and is good as a lowly cockroach compared to me, that I am the infinitely higher life form, that I am the true fucking God, and there is no one like me anywhere, no matter how hard you look with all your advanced fucking tech.